So as the Buddha approached the Bodhi tree in what is today Bodh Gaya, he was determined to find the way out of suffering. And so he sat himself cross-legged under the tree. And he started contemplating different elements of his body and his mind. So he looked at different parts of his body and he could not find anything that was independently existing. Everything was in constant flux. Everything was in change. Whether it was the blood flowing through his body, whether it was the air coming in and out of his body, whether it was the skin. And then he looked at the river's feelings, how his feelings arose and passed away, but he got a sense of peacefulness, or if he ever had a sense of irritation or discomfort, that feeling arose and passed away. And then the different types of mental formations that he had, they also arose and passed away. Where there were mental formations of anger, of jealousy, of love, of forgiveness. All these different types of mental formations came and passed away. And the same with consciousness, arose and passed away as he experienced different things. So this was his experience. And he was trying to, at that time, there was a great belief that there was something which is constant, like a soul. But he could not find anything in that. And so he also looked out and said, is there something that is outside which is permanent? And interestingly, he was sitting under a Bodhi tree and he looked at the leaf. And in the leaf, he tried to see, is there something permanent in this leaf? And in it, again, he saw the earth, the sky, the rain, the clouds, the air, the water, all the different elements were in this leaf. And in the same way as his body in this leaf, if you took away one of those elements, if you took away one part of this body, then the body would not exist in the way it is. The leaf would not exist as we see it. And so it's the same with our body. When we realize, we look at our body, we see, oh, but this body was given to us by our parents. So our parents in our body. The food we ate this morning is in our body. The farmer who grew the food is in our body. The family of the farmer, the ancestors of the farmer, the sunshine that grew the food, the water, the elements. So in this way, we start seeing that everything co-creates, interrelated. And this was his great insight, what we call interbeing, what the Buddha, or what we understand is dependent origination, or Pratītyasamutpāda. This is because that is, and this is not because that is not. So I always say this is the E equals mc squared of the Buddha. When he realized that there's no such thing as an independently existing entity, like a soul, like a self, with a big S. Yes, there's this entity, but there's nothing that exists independently of anything else. So in Hindi we say anatma. And this was a type of revolutionary type of thinking at the time. And the revolutionary realization. And that's when he realized that this realization, this view, gave him that feeling of, and that understanding of no being and no non-being, no birth, no death, and ultimately no fear. Because there's nothing that, you cannot have birth from nothing. Birth is already, there are already conditions for it. And nothing disappears. It just changes its form. So we always have to know through our own realization, through our own experience, that there's nothing as an I, a me. And that is what causes all our suffering. That is the main cause of our suffering, this entity of idea of me and I, and the idea of a permanence. The Buddha realized that everything is impermanent, everything is in constant change, everything is constant flux. So when you're in constant flux, there's nothing that you can hold on to. And it's that holding on to, that clinging, that's what causes our suffering. That's what causes our sense of attachment. So everything we do, whether we eat, or whether we bathe, or whether we brush our teeth, everything has conditioned reality. Nothing is independently existing. So as we practice, we realize this, and that gives us the joy, the freedom, the access to awakening. And we need that seed of mindfulness in whatever we do. And when we're mindful, we can be awakened, because mindful will help us to concentrate more, and that concentration will lead to that insight of neither being nor non-being, neither birth nor death. So it is just manifestation. In Buddhism, we talk not about creation, but of manifestation. And the manifestation happens because of causes and conditions. And these causes and conditions can sometimes be beyond what we can even imagine. So when we live with this awareness, we also realize that every thought, every speech, every action has a consequence. It is not just independently existing. And that affects even beyond our understanding, beyond our imagination. So when we look at a situation like the climate crisis today, we realize that how we live, what we eat, how we live our lives, how we travel, this is affecting much beyond even our imagination can perceive. And now, because of science, we're realizing that there's global warming because of conditions that we created 30 years ago, and we continue to create. So we are in a crisis situation. But it is this awakening of the Buddha that teaches us how to then be universally responsible, and to understand that the climate crisis is not something outside of us. It is us. How I live, how I think, how I act is how the cosmos thinks, lives, and acts. There's no separation. So at one level, this gives us a great freedom, because we are not caught in this me, I, and this entity. And the other side, it also gives us a great responsibility that we live in such a way that future generations of not just human beings, but all beings live in happiness, in peace, and with that potential of awakening, not as individuals, but awakening as a collective. So having a collective awakening. My teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, had a very interesting insight. He said the Buddha to be will not be an individual, but it will be a sangha, will be a community. And I think that is what we aspire to now, is that we aspire, whether it's in our families, whether it's in our workplaces, whether it's in our country, we aspire for a collective awakening, where we realize that my suffering is the other person's suffering, my happiness is the other person's happiness. And it goes beyond national boundaries. It goes to neighborhoods, neighboring countries. If your neighbor's fighting, if your neighbor's poor, then that distress, that suffering will come into our home, our country. So even for enlightened self-preservation, it is good to look after our neighbors, to see that they're prosperous, that they are, the people there are happy. And this goes to the whole world. So we don't create divisions. divisions of othering somebody by religion, by nationality, by race, by creed, by gender. And this is part and parcel of what we see as a global crisis, whether we see it in terms of discrimination or whether we see it in terms of climate crisis. Even these inter-are. They're not independent problems. So we can do this. The Buddha offered us this path. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And in that, you're touching all the elements. You're touching the cosmos within you and outside of you. And there's no separation. So enjoy the practice, and we awaken together.